Hello and welcome to this video tutorial. Today we're looking at creating a hand-drawn style pattern like this in Adobe Illustrator. Now the drawing is going to have been done on pen and paper, so I'm just going to open up my file and then we're going to have a talk about how I actually got this. So this is the file that I'm working with. I just need to zoom out a little bit and let's go and grab the corners of this document because I'm opening a JPEG image inside Adobe Illustrator. It's coming in just as a graphic and we're going to need to trace this in just a minute. So having done that, let's just have a look at the image. So this is my drawing and I'm going to show you how I got that because I started off in Adobe Photoshop. And what I did was I mocked up in Photoshop the loop. So I drew one of these loops in Photoshop and then I layered them on top of each other and I just copied it another couple of times and then I scaled it down or changed down its opacity until it was really opaque, because I then printed this out and drew over the top of it and I could see very clearly the lines that I needed to make. Now there is one gotcha here, and that is that if you're doing this yourself, what you want to do is to stop your color at this point. So what you want to do is not draw in this bit on the ends, because you have to be able to line this edge up with this edge. So just be aware that on the end here you're not going to finish that last element at all. So I mocked this up in Photoshop, I printed it out in very pale grey, I went over it with a thick pen. So I drew these lines here and filled these in, and then I took a photograph of it and I brought it into Adobe Illustrator. So that's the basics of what I did. So let's go and have a look at Illustrator. Now that we've got it in Illustrator, because it is a drawing, because I photographed it and sent it to my computer and then opened it in Illustrator, we'll get the opportunity to image trace it. So I'm just got a warning here that it might proceed slowly. It doesn't. So what we're going to do is just have a look at our tracing dialog here. And if you don't see the advanced options, just open it up here. I like to set the paths and corners quite high on this and also the noise fairly high. And then I'm just going to expand this. So when I click expand, we'll have a look in the layers palette and you'll see that we have a single layer with a group in it. So let me just make things a little bit bigger while we're here so we can see what we're doing. We need to expand everything out of this group. So with the group selected, I'm going to choose Object Ungroup. Now the way it's drawn, again, I was really strategic about that. What I did was I made sure that all of these areas here were actually encapsulated. So this white area will be scanned as white and this one too. And you'll see here on this end that when I drew these, I drew this end piece in. So drew this end piece in. So this would be traced as a white object. Now that's really important in case you want to color this again later on. So once you've expanded this, you're going to go to the very bottom, because the very last object here is the background. So you're just going to select that and delete it. But you'll see here that you've got lots of empty paths. Well, they're not actually empty paths. They're the white bits that are here. This is going to be a compound path, this one, but this is actually going to be a white shape. So what we're going to do is go and group everything. So we're going to grab everything at the top here, just drag over the top of it and go to Object Group, and then grab the middle set. You don't actually need to do 3 sets. You could do this with 1 set. I just chose to have a bit more variety. So I've grouped those all together. I'm just going to check in the layers panel because you should have everything in 3 groups, or 2 groups if you only did 2 lines and 1 group if you only did 1 line. So you don't want to have elements left over. Now the importance of putting these in groups is that they're going to travel together. And you're not going to leave white bits behind, because white bits are going to be really hard to work out that you've left behind because they're white and the background's white. Now this piece you can see is behind everything, so I'm just going to drag it to the top of the layers panel and then it will sit above everything else. I'm just going to position these roughly where I think they're going to be in my pattern. I'm going to select over all 3 and up here, or you could get to this from the alignment panel by choosing Window and then Align. I'm going to choose choose this option, which is vertical distribute center. So that's going to make sure that they're nice and evenly distributed. I've got everything I need to make my pattern, so I'm going straight into Object Pattern Make. I'm going to decrease the width by holding the Shift key and clicking in this box to bring it down 10 pixels at a time. And what I'm looking at is to join these pieces together here. So I'm just going to move them across until everything lines up pretty well. You'll see that I've got dim copies to 50% set on. Just helps me at this point to get everything lined up. Also checking this side, everything looks like it's going to be pretty good. Once I turn dim copies off, you can see that now I've got this sort of seamless join on the left and right. Of course, the top is not seamlessly joining, so let's turn dim copies back on again, and let's just reduce the height. Now, as you can see, things are not looking very good right now, and the reason for this is that this is over the top of this one here, and this is over the top of this one here, and it should be the other way around. Well, this is the option that we can click here. This just changes the layer order here and puts the bottom in front, and that obviously is solving my problems. Now, I'm also looking through here to make sure I don't have any white gaps. I do have gaps here. I haven't brought down the height quite enough. I'm just double checking to make sure everything looks pretty good. Turn back on dim copies so that, or turn off dim copies so I can see what's going on. And I'm also going to zoom out. I can change my copies to 9 by 9 so I see more of my pattern, because what I want to do is just make sure that everything looks pretty good. And I'm really happy with that. I think it looks fine. I'll click done. Now, you're likely to have a gotcha coming up soon, so don't leave yet, because recoloring this could be tricky. So I'm going to drag out a rectangle that is pretty much the shape of this artboard. With the fill selected, I'm going to fill it with my swatch. And of course, now that you've got a pattern in Illustrator, you can recolor this. We'll go to the recolor artwork tool, and we're going to click on advanced options. We're going to add a color for white here, and we're going to make sure that we've got arrows in both instances here, allowing us to remap these colors. So now I'm going to remap this to red and this to green, and you can see that it is failing. So what has happened here is, because I brought in a black and white image initially, Illustrator is not going to recolor this unless I do something. So what I'm going to do is select absolutely everything, which includes the elements that I initially used in my pattern. Let me just zoom out here. You can see that right now I've got just this rectangle selected. I'd like to be able to recolor these later on too, so let's just go and select everything. And I'll come up here and go to edit and edit colors. So anytime you bring a black and white element into Illustrator and trace it and cannot color it, you're going to do this. You're going to go to edit, edit color, and then you're going to choose whichever of these two options is available. Convert to CMYK or convert to RGB. One of them will be available and one probably won't, so just select one of them. Doesn't matter what it is, but select it. Now let's go to the recolor artwork dialog. Go and do exactly what we did earlier, which was again add a color for white. Make sure these are both arrows. Now at this point, when I'm recoloring black and white, I like to recolor at this point because it's going to make it easier for me to see where my colors are when I go into the edit dialog. So here are my colors. Otherwise, if you don't do that, your colors are going to be in the middle. So now we can just have a look at recoloring our art. Now, because these two colors are attached to each other, if I drag on the colors, they're both going to travel together. So they're going to stay in the same spatial relationship of whatever it was that I chose to recolor black and white to. If you click on here to unlink them, then you can change the colors to whatever combination you like. When you find a combination you like, click OK, and then you could come back in and try again and find a different combination. So this time we're going to work with magenta and blue as our starting point. Advanced options, let's go into edit, because we don't have to set a set of colors to work with now, because any of these colors are easier to find. So once you find something you like, click OK. Now, the beauty of doing that, of course, with patterns in Illustrator is that you still have your original pattern, but you also have these recolored versions, every one of which of these is an actual Illustrator pattern. So there's the basics of creating this sort of hand-drawn look pattern in Adobe Illustrator. It is a little bit more cumbersome than you might at first expect, but you'll get better results if you work from a sort of stable beginning. Print out yourself a template, a sort of grayscale template to draw your original designs, and then you're going to have something which still looks hand drawn but is actually a little bit tighter, a little bit more easily made into a pattern. If you like carefully researched content like this, clearly presented in a step-by-step format so that you can get great results, then you'll love my Skillshare content. I'm a Skillshare top teacher. I have hundreds of short courses on Skillshare that you can access along with thousands of other great courses, all for the price of a single subscription. If you're interested, there's a Skillshare coupon for you in the description below to use to sign up. Using this coupon benefits me as a creator, and it helps me continue to make free content available here for you also on YouTube. Thank you for joining me for this video tutorial. On the screen now, you'll see a video that I've hand-picked for you. If you enjoyed the video you've just watched, I know that you're going to really enjoy the one I've picked for you to watch next.